Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. I'm Plaza Warriors, and you like to call me that guy with the afro. First real lesson about conventions, and that was Atsuri Con in 2007. Um, Before I start off with anything, let me explain why I did relate this to Dashcon. As you know, Dashcon was the biggest convention failure probably of the decade. I didn't go, thank God. Generally speaking, though, it was the same problem that they decided they were running out of money midway through the convention. Unlike DashCon, however, which we can all agree was a total scam, Suricon legitimately wanted to take care of the people who went to the convention. And a few things before I get into the moral of the story. First off, I gotta give a shout out to DJ Lin. I don't know what he's doing nowadays, but he was the person who started up Suricon, and he did a very good job. I've got to admit, it was really nice to see conventions that weren't just, oh, by the way, we're going to throw out tons of guests. He actually was involved a lot more than I think a lot of conventions heads were. Although I think that's also a little bit of a knock on a lot of the conventions in Houston, except for I think Delta H Con. Um, I don't really see that kind of drive. Okay, I'll admit Denise Le did a good job 20, 2000, whatever, the first year. I can't remember Anime Matsuri. She was out there. I admit that. Don't expect me to be nice to them ever again, probably, but still. But DJ Lin was the guy who was behind Atsuri Con, and he did an amazing job just being out there and being with people instead of being behind the desk or whatever, like a lot of people do, or just not being in these places where you need to be. Generally, though, Atsuri came across the same problem as Dashcon. And Saturday nights, they asked everyone to come in the room. They were running out of money. The story goes that the moral of this whole thing was DJ Lin made one of the most critical mistakes you can make when you start a convention, and that is conventions don't pay for themselves. And he really thought it was, oh, we'll get money in as the people come around. Convention, they'll draw in money. But unfortunately, that did not happen. So after a while, Saturday night, we could easily have had DashCon before DashCon. Okay. This was something that could have happened well before. But instead of that happening, the staff, and I was reading this, I forgot this point about it when I was rereading some of my notes from 2007. The staff says, if for some reason we shut down, you will all get your money back out in the open. They just said that. And so immediately the rush was on to get the funds raised and all that. It ended up working generally. People were able to raise the money to keep the con open at least long enough, and the hotel would bill them later for the remaining balance. That's fine. But it didn't stop there. I think really what happened was a sense of community. And unlike DashCon, which seemed like everybody was just throwing money around just to say, haha, give me cash. No, AtsuriCon was the opposite. It was the fans wanted a good convention and they kept it going. They didn't complain, they didn't whine, they didn't miss out on anything. I think only one event, which I was completely interested in, didn't happen, but that was it. Generally, though, I felt like Atsuri did it the right way, but except for that one thing that cons do not pay for themselves. and I want to get into this detail a little bit more in another video, but I want to go back to why one convention can be so right and one convention can be so wrong. Dashcon was a scam. Let's be very honest. From every source of whatever, you can call it a scam pretty much up and down. But for me, Atsuri Con was the opposite. It was well-intentioned, but didn't end up at that point well off. I think it really showed two things. One, in Houston particularly, it's not the conventions that are bad. I mean, the conventions are kind of I hate to say it, Houston has become pretty much all of Texas has become basically a convention black hole. I hate to say this, except for Acon and maybe the possibility of, say, San Japan, although they're having internal issues. You can go back and see a few of my videos on that earlier. That generally the fans in Texas are amazing. The convention teams can be the opposite. They can be so terribly toxic that you don't want to be around them. And there are a few conventions, I'm not going to name names, that I've had to deal with personally that I'm not really fond of. Again, not going to say anybody. If you know who I'm talking about and you know a few of them, in fact, one of my friends, not going to name his name either, said one convention in the Austin area just rubs them the wrong way of their staff. They just don't want to be that kind of group. And, okay, that I can see. But generally, convention staffs in Texas are not as good as they should be. I mean, I'll be honest with you, Delta H-Con seems to be one of the lone exceptions. I mean, it's a small convention. I think they need to do some other things, but at least their staff is in the right place. I mean, generally speaking, when it comes down to it, conventions don't pay for themselves, and I learned that through this convention. Now, does that mean it was a success? Well, depends on your point of view about Atsuri Con. If you look at it as the viewpoint of fans coming together and taking care of each other and taking care of the convention, then I say it was a huge success. If you're looking at it financially, I can't really say, but it wasn't over with. I believe the charity auction also did a good job of raising money. I think they raised somewhere on the number of $4,000 for a first-year convention at a charity auction. That's actually amazing. Unfortunately, there would not be another Atsuri Con. I don't know if it's just because they couldn't get the money as they wanted to, or DJ Lin had other things he wanted to do. But I feel like if I were to go back and say, why isn't this the same thing nowadays? Why do we have conventions in Texas that don't have the same heart as Atsuri Con? I can't answer that. Yeah, some conventions are big and some conventions are just not growing enough. But when it comes down to it, if I had a Atsuri Con today, it would be an amazing convention compared to what I've seen in Texas. Again, other than maybe Acon, conventions in general in Texas are not doing that well. San Japan, but unfortunately, you can see its numbers are kind of steadily declining. A lot of people are talking about that, and I won't get into a lot of detail there. That's not the point of this video. Onicon could be better numbers-wise, but people just tend to be lazy, I guess, and don't want to go to Galveston. I don't know why. It's a freaking hour drive almost anywhere in Houston, almost, if you avoid rush hour. I mean, come on. You can't go down to Galveston Island. I don't understand what the problem is there. Definitely don't want to talk about Anime Matsuri. Ikicon, okay, good idea. Timing can't be any worse. New Year's Eve is usually not a good time for me to start off with, and then you have a convention. It's just not very, very wise. I mean, Dallas has a lot of anime conventions, but I think they actually oversaturated a little bit too much. Houston was going to be that way for a while, but all these 1 year conventions just didn't happen the second time. But there's really Remscar and Corpus Christi. I think that's it. I don't think there's anything west of San Antonio that is big, major. I think there's one in El Paso, but I think that's it. But when you really think about it, conventions don't pay for themselves, and Atsuri Con really showed me that one critical point, that it's not going to always be here's the money based on people coming in the door. Now, again, I think it could work nowadays. 10 years later, it probably will be more valuable than a lot of conventions in Texas. But I also feel like, what do you do now? Because unfortunately, you've got people who don't want to go to a bigger convention now. They don't want to go to these established places. Some people are tired of San Japan already. Onicon has been meh. It's still a great con, but the people just don't want to go to it for some reason. Generally speaking, I would say if Atsuri Con did not get its goal, if Atsuri Con didn't get to its point, would I have accepted a refund? Looking back on it, I think I wouldn't, simply because I couldn't come halfway through a convention and say that's it. I would like to go through the whole weekend, or at least I got through part of it. I take Sunday is like, well, not a third, maybe a quarter, if I were to make a point there. But also it showed that there are people with enough heart in this state to make a convention better. But I also think, I'll point out to another video later on, that it's not up to the conventions anymore to do fix some of these problems, or do a lot of the fan gatherings. And I say it also, another point I want to make later on is, don't stop at the convention with whatever you want to do. Be out there and be more able to go around, instead of just, oh, con's over, I feel sad. But compare this to Dashcon and look at what Dashcon was. It was so negative, not just the staff. It was the people who went there. I believe the few videos that I could get, there was one guy who was trolling almost every cosplayer around. He was legit trolling. He wasn't just, oh, hi, you look awesome. And he was like, oh, you look like the Batman shooter. Why'd you choose this? There was none of that at Atsuri Con, thank God. There was a lot more embracing and compassion than I think I've ever seen at a convention, instead of this toxic atmosphere that everyone wanted to leave. Nobody wanted to take any part of it. Everyone wanted to distance themselves from it. And unfortunately, from what I can tell, there wasn't really, was there anything valuable that went on? I mean, they promised a lot. You can promise a lot of things, but you have to deliver on it too. If you can't pay the bills at a convention, you're going to have some bad things happen. But to me, I don't think Dashcon should have continued anyway. I felt like, when I look at the opposites of the Atsuri Con and Dashcon wanted to be bad. I don't just mean the people running the convention. I think the people who are at it wanted to be just bad people. They didn't want to bring any gaming at all. There was one console, one TV, perfect for people about 5,000 names, says the internet historian. I have to actually be blunt. Gaming is pretty much whatever you play is what you bring, or the convention has. I think the biggest problem with gaming conventions in Texas is that not a lot of people are natural gamers who go to anime conventions anymore or even comic cons. So really, it's luck of the draw. We'll get into that another day. But yeah, when you can barely get 1,000 people in your hotel, that's saying something. But I think the biggest point between Atsuri Con and Dashcon is Atsuri Con didn't try to be something it wasn't. It didn't try to be this spectacular, super 5,000 people are going to show up at the door convention. Um, First year conventions, if you get 5,000 people, you're very lucky to even get 2,000. I'm going to be very honest. You're not going to get that many people. And also, it kind of represents what to do, even though it doesn't work out. Atsuri Con did everything it could to bring itself forward to people. And for me, it worked. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I liked it. I liked how Atsuri Con handled its business. I liked how DJ Lynn advertised. The problem really is, again, cons don't pay for themselves. And on the opposite, Dashcon, oh, it's a Tumblr convention. Yeah, that doesn't work. But cut a long video short. Cut a long video short with Bedhead. If you really want to do a convention, make sure you can find a way to get it going. Don't just throw guests out there or say, oh, we're going to have thousands of people. Trust me, conventions do not pay for themselves. Make sure you have the money to take care of at least the hotel first. Then you build up from the rest. And if you're not going to have it at a hotel, find a high school or college, like Delta H Con started off with. Start small as you can, work your way up. It's not always easy, and it's not always going to be, you're going to get 5,000 people in the door, but start as small as you can, like maybe 20, 30 people. Maybe have a monthly gathering instead of like, hey, we're going to have this big convention like they do at the mall in San Antonio, Wonderland of the Americas. It's not always anime, but it's something nerd related. I don't consider myself a nerd as much as a gamer, but that's not the point. Start as small as you can, and then when you get your name out there, then you can build. For me, the biggest problem with conventions not paying for themselves is how we treat them. I hate to say it, people treat conventions like they magically happen. And I used to work in an arcade, and that's expensive stuff. That's $2,000 to $5,000 worth of equipment in one cabinet. I think we need to remember they have to make money too. They have to pay bills. They have to pay their guests. They have to pay for people who need their own space, like just volunteers. I mean, they've got a lot of things they've got to pay for. And I'm of the mindset of if you'll look at it as we've done so much in the last few years to make fan conventions better, we forgot rule number one. It's not just what we do, it's not just who we are, it's we have to make this work financially. It's not just the conventions that have to make money, put out the money. We have to be responsible for our end. If we have to pay the bill, we pay them basically to have a convention. Believe me, $50 is way, way cheap compared to the tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars the conventions put in. So when they do happen, do your best to support them. Do your best to support the dealers and the artists and all that. Because again, cons don't pay for themselves. And if Atsuri Con ended up anything like Dashcon, I don't think I would be talking to you today at all. I won't think I was even going to be talking to you 10, 15 years ago. I wouldn't bother because that would have been it. That would have been my last real convention experience generally, because it showed the Dashcon showed us the worst of conventions. I think Atsuri Con shows us the best in them. Hopefully, DJ Lin is watching. I don't know where he's at. And hopefully, if you have anything of Atsuri Con that year, you come forward and try to explain what happened. Because again, they could have kicked us all out. They could have said, "Here's your money. Sorry." But they didn't. They put themselves down into the fire and said, "We need your help. Can you do it?" And yet we did. I feel like the positive vibes coming from that convention really, even 10 years later, cannot be understated. Hopefully, we'll see DJ Lin again. Hopefully, we'll see something like Atsuri Con once more. But otherwise, we need that back in Texas, honestly. We need that just get together positive vibe coming back because it's not here right now. That's not to say the conventions are bad. I just feel like we need that back when it was 2008, 2007. We don't have that right now. And hopefully we'll get it back, but maybe not. Until then, until we find that out, I think Atsuri Con should serve as the model for all convention people down the road. If you have any information about it, I mean, all I know is I posted up an old clip from a website years ago. I might be able to pull it up and paste it a little bit further down for you guys, but I think generally the more people know about Atsuri Con, the better the better people get out about it. Again, there have been a lot of first year conventions in Houston that didn't work out. And that's one of those conventions I wish did. It was very positive. People came and enjoyed and didn't seem to be anywhere near as bad as people from any other convention I've ever been to. And DJ Lin is probably one of the best heads I've ever known. Stardust is a very good one for Delta H Con. But again, I hope we see more of what happened at Atsuri Con 2007. Because again, it's stuff like that that make me happy still doing conventions 10 years later. And who knows, maybe we'll see more of what DJ Lin had. Maybe we'll see more of what Atsuri Con was. But in my opinion, if you want to see how to take care of your convention and how guests and fans should unite like that, go back to Atsuri Con 2007. And you want to see what not to do, how to be so negative and so egotistical on all fronts, go back to Dashcon. Because I will say right now, Dashcon represented the worst in us. And I think there should be no excuses. When you start a convention, you have to execute. Whether people like it or not is up to them, but the execution has to be there. So hats off to Atsuri Con 2007.